everyone, I hope you are doing well. I'm just vibing at my Vibes apartment, drinking natural wine from this like vintage German soup bowl that I recently acquired because when everything's isolating and horrible, you need to like find pleasure, whatever strange places it might be hiding. This is little bear trapped in here. Um But yeah, I was thinking that today I would do a review of Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. I've been wanting to read this since like November, I think, or since I saw it like on Sage Reads channel, and then since then I feel like it's become one of those like big gay books that like everyone on Twitter and stuff are like reading. I feel like every year has like a big queer book. Like in 2016, 2017, it was like The Argonauts by Megan Elson, which I don't like, and a couple of years ago it was like Girl Takes the Form of a Normal Girl, of a Mortal Girl, um, and this year it's Detransition Baby, which I feel has like fully been like just being confirmed by the fact that like my mortal enemy Chris Kraus has blurbed this book despite it having no mention of Kathy Acker in it. Sorry, that's just a little joke I have with myself. Um, but yeah, this is a really amazing book. I finished it like the 1st of March, a couple of days ago, and I just can't stop thinking about it. So I was thinking I would do a review. I've even like made some like very scattered notes. But yeah, if you don't know, Detransition follows Reese, who's a trans woman, and her former partner Ames, who's like detransitioned, and then Ames like cis boss Katrina, who becomes pregnant with Ames' child, and it's about like Ames' kind of like attempt to bring Reese and Katrina together and like create a family in which like Ames can be a parent without being perceived as a father. And yeah, it's just a really great inspiration of just like motherhood, womanhood, um, especially like community, and especially like the community between like trans women and kind of like the stigma, I guess, of detransition. And it's just like amazing. I feel like a lot of people like find this book incredibly funny, and I did as well. Like the one bit where like Reese is like working with like making celebrity like wear certain brands of clothes, whatever, and then like Werner Herzog shows up, which is like that bit. He's just like, I watched a lot of his movies, and just like the bit I was like hearing his bit like in his voice, and it was so so funny. But yeah, I just think that this is like a very like unforgiving but like honest view on just like, again, motherhood, love, relationships, and just like how difficult it is to form social bonds, relationship, like in society. In We all live in a society, but in the society that we're in, and it's like very intimate but like not voyeuristic, and it's somehow like so cynical and funny, but also just I feel like I've seen a lot of people like describe both Reese and Ames and Katrina, I guess, as like problematic characters. And I think what it does really well is just like showing the complexities, especially of like navigating like transphobia and just like jealousy and neurosis and trauma, and how, yeah, because I don't think like I find it really annoying when people are like, oh, this person is like in relation to this book, where people are like, oh, this is like problematic behavior, because there's a whole point of the book of like how people try to like pathologize just like trauma and like attachment. And I think that like this book is quite like kind and like forgiving in the way that it like just presents these relationships like as complex, these behaviors as complex. It does this like really beautifully, and it kind of shows how you can love someone and still hurt them really like deeply. And I just think that was really nice. I've been looking for reviews by trans women because like even though like I'm trans masculine, like I identify as like trans, I'm obviously not like a trans woman, and I really like how this specific like talks about like different experiences like faced by like trans masculine and like trans feminine people. I think is like very much a case because I feel like trans masculine people are not like exempt from like trans misogyny. I feel like we live in such like a trans like in such a transphobic and misogynistic world. Like trans misogyny, I think it's one of the most like deeply rooted like just like behaviors and structures like in society, and I feel like that comes across like very hard. Like you literally you can't fucking win, you know. Hi, editing me. I just wanted to clarify. What I mean by this is that trans masculine people are also very trans misogynist. Not that trans masculine people experience trans misogyny. I feel like I was a bit like unclear, but what I was trying to say is that like trans masculine people are also very trans misogynistic. And yeah, sorry, back to past 10 minutes ago, Amanda. um, and again, I feel like it's so raw, but it doesn't feel like voyeuristic. I feel like Tori Peters is very much like writing for her audience. And I went to like her website, and like she's been like publishing like her earlier work for free for like other trans women to read, and like for it to be accessible for everyone. And I just think that's such like a testament to also like what's like happening in this book, in sense like it's very much like for Peters' like audience, and it's very like raw and very like intense, but it doesn't feel voyeuristic. But I also like personally know that like this is not my experience, and I thought it was just like such an amazing read, and it just, I don't know, it made me have like a lot of like very intense feelings. Like I found it so fun, but I found it like so sad. This is one bit where like Reese talks about just like how everyone needs to have like this like one big failure in life, and like this one big failing like makes them more interesting and makes the person like different like from then on. But for like a lot of trans people, like they view just like being trans as just how you already like fail in life, like you're absolutely fucked. And I just thought that bit was just like a lot. And there's also this bit where it's like a funeral remind Reese not to like kill herself because she just like want to become a statistic, and just like the whole idea of like funerals is like a social like event for trans women. It's just like, I don't know, it's so on point, like so complex and so great. And I also think that like Ames who before retransitioning, like just there's just like things like this is quite like scattered. Just like this interview, this book is like different. Like there's like different timelines. It's like before or after like the conception of like Katrina's pregnancy, and like you have like Reese's relationship with Ames, like when she went by the name Amy, and kind of like how like, I don't know, Ames like detransition like doesn't change who like he is. And also like I use like I guess he pronouns talking about like Ames because like those are the ones he used at those points, but like, and I use she when like when referring to like Amy, I think it's like the most like constructive and like effective way of doing it, I guess. But just like the whole idea of just like how Ames feel how masculinity makes Ames feel like disconnected from his body in a way that like he doesn't have to like when he when like doing this like very like traditional like feminine and like female behaviors, he's like more in touch with his body, and that's just like unbearable. And I found that so sad to read. But yeah, if you couldn't tell, I gave this book 5 stars. A lot of people say it has some pacing issues, and I do kind of like disagree. Like there's one bit where the pacing's a bit off, I feel, when it's like Amy and Reese having sex, and then suddenly you get to hear about like Amy's like previous like sexual experiences, and that, but then you go back to like the moment of them like having had sex, and like Amy being quite upset, and it feels like very sudden. Like it's like you just like the scene's happening, then you suddenly get like a whole backstory bit, and then you're back. But I feel like that's a very like apt representation of just like dissociation, like especially like dissociation in like a sexual context. So I feel like that like abruptness was quite intentional. I think the one thing is that like a lot happens in this, and I feel like it could benefit from like being perhaps like a bit longer. But overall, I think it's amazing. I'll see if I put any more notes in. No, I haven't. My notes very fun. They're all like problematic characters, voyeurism, trans femininity, funny and cynical. Great notes. For a great book. But if you haven't read this already, I definitely recommend doing so. I'll also put some like great reviews that I found online that are more coherent and entertaining than this in the description. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you read this, if you're planning to read this, what you thought about it. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.